where we last ran into everyone, Jim Jordan was out in the press pit that is the rotunda, bitching about something, but he's going to lay out damning evidence. Again, evidence being something that information is just stuff, dates, times, circumstances, things that happened and occurred. Evidence requires a crime, and then the information related to that crime is called evidence. All right. I'm ready to be disappointed again, but hope springs eternal.
House Republicans are zeroing in on President Biden's connection.
And when we say zero,
to his son's foreign influence peddling and potential bribery in their first impeachment inquiry.
Again, is it bribery or extortion? Was he yelling at the guy on the phone in the WhatsApp message, or was he being yelled at?
Hearing this week.
He used the money of the people I represent in the 4th District of Ohio to help his family.
Well, of course he did, but he helped all those families that you're talking about as well.
Anyone with a brain can see that. That's why the chairman wants the bank records. That's why we're doing the impeachment inquiry. It can't get plainer and simpler than that.
Yeah, it can. I mean, in deference to your entire caucus, simple is best. And you still are confused by the content of your argument. You are. Comer is.
He gets the request. He calls his dad. His dad calls the audible, uses our money to leverage the change. I think.
No, the change was going to happen anyways. He's talking about Shokin.
Anyone with common sense can see it.
That's because you're stupid and you didn't read the briefing that he traveled to Ukraine with, which said the primary point of this trip before the money is doled out is to get rid of Shokin. Or the interview that Petro Poroshenko did with Brian Kilmeade, where he said Shokin is a lunatic and was criminal, was corrupt.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman and Oversight Committee member Jim Jordan making the case, and now House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has formally issued new subpoenas for the personal and business bank records of both Hunter Biden and his uncle James Biden.
Still no work on Thomas or his wife. No, Ginny Thomas. You're not looking at her bank records. I mean, just who paid for the Proud Boys bus tickets?
He's calling this the next step in the investigation.
Oh, it has to be. It can't be the top step. It won't be the final step. It's got to be the next step. In them finding out they have nothing.
Earlier this week, we learned of $260,000 sent from China to Hunter Biden, but sent to Joe Biden's address during.
No. By the way, she's on Fox Business. No one wires $260,000 to someone's fucking house. No one. Doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. His address for the purpose of banking, because he was incorporated in the state of Delaware, was the house he had rented from his dad. He hadn't gotten a new house yet, so it was still there. This is the same shit they do with, like, it's sort of like a flip-flop of why they don't want college kids to register to vote where they go to college, because they want it to be their home state wherever they came from, so you don't have these blue state kids voting in red districts.
His presidential campaign. Joining me right now to discuss it all, and a Fox Business exclusive is...
Yes, because he won't talk to anyone else. Mainly because they'll bring up the whole OSU rape stuff.
Chairman Jim Jordan. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this weekend.
You bet. Good to be with you.
He has to be there that weekend. They hadn't passed the budget yet, dum-dum.
Can you walk us through why $260,000 was sent to Hunter Biden at Joe Biden's address when, in fact, at the time, which was just in 2019...
When Joe Biden was not a public employee, not a federal employee, not a government official. Who was president in 2019? I can't remember. I remember we were headed towards a recession that came in January of 2020 before even COVID hit, because Trump was clamoring for negative interest rates to pay off the debt from his tax cut. It was Trump. That's who it was. Yeah, that's what it was.
Living in California.
Yeah, who knows? It's just one more piece of evidence that raises concerns, I think.
Not evidence. The fact that he was incorporated in Delaware and had that house as his home address while he looked for another house that he had no other secondary permanent address is not evidence. It's not evidence. Evidence has to tie directly to some sort of criminal endeavor.
For any common sense American out there who sees how this whole thing played out. So, look.
And by the way, let's just be abundantly clear. When they talk about common sense, what they mean is people ignorant of the next step in the theoretical query and the reasoning that the reasonable next step you would take in understanding a complex situation. That's it. They just want they want people, common sense says this money goes there and that's how terrible, until you're like, oh, but that's because that's where his, he lived there for a while and he hadn't bought a new house yet, so his permanent address for his business was there, and it didn't go to the house, it went to the bank. But the money went to him in California, technically speaking, but his business was incorporated there and they put the home address there and he just hadn't shifted it yet. Some people don't do that until while they're renting, they don't do it until they permanently have an address or buy a house. Oh, okay. Common sense would say most people, when they move, and if they haven't settled in one place or they've got a rental property while they look for another house, for example, that they're going to buy, they don't set up a permanent address in the rental property because they're figuring 90 days, maybe a couple months till they find a house, and then they will make that their permanent address, and then they'll do the big changeover, but until then, their mail goes there. Also, didn't Trump vote by mail? So did Mike Pence, by the way. Mike Pence voted by mail and used the governor's mansion of Indiana as his address while he was vice president. That's common sense would say that you're not the governor anymore. You don't live in the governor's mansion, and you sure as fuck don't live in whatever your primary residence isn't even your house in Indiana at that point. It would be in D.C., right? You would vote in the D.C. district, but he didn't. That would be common sense. But in this particular case, you can go, well, that maybe there's some rules about who can call, for voting purposes, the White House and the vice president's residence is technically a temporary space, so you use nobody cares. Yeah, Trump voted by mail through Mar-a-Lago, even though he was living in the White House the entire time, and Mar-a-Lago isn't a fucking house. It's a club that's for rent.
This is why we continue to pursue our
dig and bullshit and whatever. Again, July 2019, August 2019. That looks like a test payment and then the final payment. Beneficiary address, Joe Biden's Delaware home. Beijing wires. Oh, my God.
Investigation, continue to do our oversight, and as you mentioned, it's why the Chairman Comer has subpoenaed the bank records for Hunter and Jim Biden, the president's brother. We'll see what that information, what further we learn from that new.
Also, again, no Republicans are troubled by the idea that the House can form a committee that can subpoena the records of private citizens who were never in office. None of you are bothered by that. Because I just want to know that when the committee puts together a thing that says after Donald Trump's found guilty of his crimes, when they start going after Eric Trump and Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner and Don Jr.'s bank records because of their involvement in money laundering for their father and the furtherance of crimes that he did, when they find policy changes, specifically like the elimination of TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Donald Trump scuttled as soon as he got into office, and a couple months later, he gets a $17 million payment in his secret Chinese bank account, which heretofore it only had $723,000 in it. But who's counting?
Information when we get it.
Now, Congressman, you know that your colleagues on the left, the Democrats, are defending Joe Biden. They did.
Not quite. They're more just mocking Jim and Jamie. They're not quite. I mean, they're defending Biden, but that's no, that is incidental. What does he do? This man you seek, he covets. They're just spending most of their time making fun of Jim Jordan and James Comer.
So in your first hearing in the impeachment.
Yeah, they made you look like a right prat. Yeah, they made you look like an asshole is what they did. Pardon me, Grace. I think you're wrong.
Impeachment inquiry this past week. They say there's no evidence, that this is all about Trump and this is just a joke. So walk us through.
Hey, Fox News. That's Byron Donalds. He's a Republican. Don't just put up black Congress people because she said Democrat.
What you believe to be the most important damning evidence leading to potential bribery charges.
Come on.
Yeah, 5 days in December in 2015. And we learned about this when we deposed Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, under oath.
Oh, we're going, okay, all right. We're going Shokin? We're going, and he be Shokin. Ha-ha. Shokin. Let me see it 1 second. I'm going to need to open my note-taking software for this one. I have a feeling we're going to be coming back around to the idea that a phone call was made to protect Shokin going forward and that he changed changed policy on this one. Let's see. There we go. Here's the... yep, there it is. This would be the memo. There's November. What did he just say? What did he just say? Oh, this is different. Where did he go? Get back here. Where's my thing? Here it is. Okay. Say that again.
Understand what this, yeah, 5 days in December.
5 days in December. 5 days in December. That this would be Monday, the 23rd of November. That's before Thanksgiving for the who's at home. And this is a reminder of the vice president's talk with Yatsenyuk and him, and that his trip, and these are the talking points, and the Ukraine clearances, CCing the EUR Ukraine clearances, the European Union representative on this. They get a copy of it. Please clear the attached BCLs for VPOTUS Kiev trip by OOB tomorrow. This is, again, this is Monday, the 11/23. There we go. That is before December. That is before, I don't know if every year happens this way, folks, if you do. But most years, and I'll have to go look at the calendar, maybe 2015 was an anomaly, but November usually happens before December. Background. SBU Unity and Reforms. This is the primary point of this. This is goals and objectives. Is going to meet with Poroshenko, opportunity to press for re-energizing the reform agenda, particularly critical progress on anti-corruption, offer new U.S. support, and encourage Ukraine to continue its efforts at Minsk implementation, particularly on securing agreement on local elections in Donbass. Your last call was November 5th. Your last meeting was in New York on September 28th. And here's the primary one on background. What's the primary thing? You should recommend that he give a State of the Nation speech to the Rada in which he re-energizes the effort and rolls out new proposed reforms. There is wide agreement that anti-corruption must be at the top of the list and that reforms must include an overhaul of the Prosecutor General's office, including removal of Prosecutor General Shokin. This is the talking points and the statement of purpose, the mission statement for his trip that he took in December that he bragged about later where he got rid of him. He said, I'm not giving you the $1 billion if you don't fire the fucking guy. This was the point, and he got it fucking done. That's why he bragged about it at the CFR. Jim Jordan is a fucking doofus. These people are stupid. This is so fucking weak. And by the way, that document is legit and I have no idea why, but it was posted on John Solomon's sites amongst a bunch of other stuff because I don't think he fucking checked.
In 2015, and we learned about this when we deposed Devin Archer, Hunter Biden's business partner, under oath. And understand what happened. Devin Archer tells us.
Okay, here's what happened. Tell us what happened. Let's hear it.
On December 4th, 2015, Hunter Biden and Devin Archer are meeting with the Burisma executives. They asked them, we are under pressure from the Ukrainian prosecutor. Can you help? They get a request. Next question we asked Mr. Archer was, what did Hunter Biden do when he got that request? Devin Archer's response, he called his dad.
Okay, first of all, that's a lie. The pressure about that was money. They were getting pressure from Shokin because he was squeezing them for funds. But they were worried he'd get kicked out and they had him on a short leash. This is all like a corrupt nut inside Ukraine at the time. Poroshenko and Shokin and that entire ilk. Shokin had already been busted earlier that year because of the Diamond prosecutor shit. He was on his way fucking out. And in November, The primary goal stated for the next trip, which happened after this phone call, but it decided before this phone call, was Shokin's got to go. Period. I don't know why this. Well, I mean, I know why. It's because he's a lying son of a bitch. That's why. That's because Jim Jordan is blazingly full of shit. But this is just dumb. November 22nd, 2015. Before anybody leaned over at a dinner in Dubai and told Hunter Biden they're having pressure from Shokin and they're in trouble and Shokin's giving them pressure, before any of that phone call, before they went and called Washington, before any of this stuff alleged to have happened, the mission statement for the vice president's meeting with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko's December 7th and 8th trip. This was already decided in November that Shokin had to fucking go. There it is. That's it. There's no question. This isn't even close to, like, the fact that they're hanging their hat on this being the biggest example is so fucking stupid. And you want to talk about common sense. Common sense would dictate, ladies and gentlemen, if I may, if any of the maggots have rejoined us, wouldn't you think that if somebody had already decided to do something before someone called them and that person asked them to do it, that the chances that they were manipulated by the person who called into doing something is fairly slim? Also, why the fuck would you need to bribe somebody to do something they were already in the process of doing? Also, Shokin was not fired by Joe Biden, nor was he fired by Petro Poroshenko. They held a vote, and overwhelmingly the parliament voted to kick him out. And he resigned as they were finishing the vote. And that's for your mother, too. Whoops. Ugh. Sorry about that.
The obvious next question is, what did his dad do, if anything? And we know what he did. 5 days later, he gets on a plane, according to Washington Post reporting, while on that plane ride, December 9th, 2015, while on that plane heading over to Ukraine, he calls an audible and says, we're going to leverage American tax dollars to start the process of firing that prosecutor.
Right. He calls an audible on something that was already written down in November.
Directly does what was asked for
by the White House, which is why when he was talking at the Council on Foreign Relations, when the guy said, he's telling the story, he was like, Poroshenko, when you can't do that, I'll call the president. He said, call him. They'd already discussed it. It was already on the agenda.
By the Burisma executives. And they not only get that prosecutor fired, they get the subsequent prosecutor to drop the charges against the head of Burisma. That all played out. That is...
No. They scuttled the investigation that Shokin had done because it was ineffective. And then because on purpose, he'd intentionally set up this like drag around by your ass thing. Again, he get paid to keep the investigation in the file cabinet. If you stop paying him, it ends up on your desk. It ends up on an inspector's desk. And they cleared out his inspectors too.
That is with no doubt about those series of facts.
Yes, there are. It's well, there's no doubt that series of facts is missing a giant fact, which is the decision to leverage those funds specifically had already been decided in November.
And what's important, Maria, is all that pattern right there is consistent with what the confidential human source told
Rudy Giuliani. Nope.
The FBI, and they recorded in the 1023 form. So that happened. This is a tale as old as time, as I said in the hearing. This is a politician taking certain action that benefits his family financially.
And the entire United States. And the people of Ukraine.
And then the kicker is he tries to conceal it. They try to cover it up. And that's exactly what I...
What tried to cover it up? He bragged about it at the Council on Foreign Relations. He was carrying out policy. Jesus Christ. What do you mean hide it?
I believe the Justice Department did with the David Weiss investigation.
So where is this all leading? I mean,
nowhere.
When is the next hearing? What are you planning to do once you do get those bank records?
Again, I don't even know why they need the bank records. What are you going to prove? That they spent money that you know they had?
Well, what we're doing on the Judiciary Committee is we've now scheduled David Weiss to come in for an interview. We want to talk to David Weiss on the investigation side.
Boring.
How he ran that investigation.
They already have. They've already spoken to him once already. They're not going to learn anything new. Again, this could be another one of those, like, fucking, like the Devin Archer things. Nope. I heard him talk to him like 20 times over the course. He talked to him every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, over the course of 10 years. And 20 times there happened to be other people around, and he asked how the weather was and fishing. I never heard him discuss business. Womp, womp.
Why did they let the Burisma tax years, the statute of limitations on those tax years, why did they let that expire? We think all these decisions made in that investigation seem to...
Because the IRS agents that were working on it were maggots and were trying to insert shit into the investigation from the quote-unquote laptop, which is unverifiable and will get everything else thrown out because of fruit of the poison tree. Stupid.
So that they were trying to do everything they could to keep it away from the White House, to keep it away from Joe Biden. So we want to talk to David Weiss, two other lawyers who were part of the investigation into Hunter Biden. We've got them scheduled to come in for a deposition as well. So we're working on all that. As you know, Chairman Comer is subpoenaed the bank records. We want to take a look at that information. So that's how I think in a systematic way.
Also, look, again, this goes to like I think what they're looking for. And the only reason they want these bank records is that they think that the money was paid to Joe Biden. So that the money that Jim Biden took in or that Hunter took in, that they spent or snorted or traded or invested, whatever the fuck they did with it, they want it to have shown up in Joe Biden's pocket in some sort of magical Cayman Islands account, which doesn't fucking exist. Because Joe Biden, for whatever any of these assholes think about him, if they think he's anywhere near the master criminal they want, his goal has been to be the president of the United States. And there's a certain level of dirt you want to keep off you if that's your goal. If you know you're going to end up being, the fact that he was even Obama's vice president means they vetted the living fuck out of his entire background before they brought him up, because they didn't need to scuttle the presidency of the first black president because of his attachment to somebody who was fucking corrupt. So he went through way more vetting than these motherfuckers will ever do in this kind of shit. And then during the vice presidency, he was gearing up to maybe this is my shot to go from the vice presidency to the presidency. And then Beau died and he decided against it. And because Hillary was gearing up to run and those two things were happening at the same time because of Beau's death, he decided, I'm going to pull back on this one, not run against Hillary, and maybe we'll have the first woman president. I'm glad to support that. And then, whether I get another shot is, if she runs 8 years, I won't get another shot, but it was worth it, blah, blah. That's it. That's it. And he was no longer a public servant at that point. Maybe advise and counsel, but that's it. Once he left the office, because the idea was that what influence would he have had over the Trump administration? It's absurd. And the idea, by the way, that he was a fucking shoo-in when he did decide to run was a huge question as well. When you had, Bernie making another run at it, Elizabeth Warren becoming kind of like the softer version of Bernie for a lot of people, and another chance at having a woman president. There was absolutely an opportunity where she could have pushed it ahead. She's a very smart woman, very capable. It was a big field of people. But Biden took it. And ended up being, there was a reason why Trump was afraid of Biden for a year before he started running. Because he's like, if I run against this guy, I'm fucked, because he's an old white guy just like me, only he's actually likable. I'm done. But during, the timeline on his 2015 thing is garbage. I've already shown that. I've shown it repeatedly. It's embarrassingly stupid that they even go there again. But nobody brings this shit up. That the decision to fire Shokin in exchange for the money had already been made in November of 22, and that they were just gearing up towards that. And he talked to everybody there, and like, we're just going to do this. Fuck it. I don't need any of this bullshit. The guy's awful. And go look up Diamond Prosecutors if you want to see how corrupt Shokin was.
We do our constitutional duty of oversight, particularly now that we're in.
You have no oversight over private citizens who happen to be related to public officials. Otherwise, you'd be up fucking Jenny Thomas's skirt right now.
This impeachment inquiry phase of that oversight.
And how long will this impeachment inquiry phase take? I mean, you don't think you're actually going to get an impeachment through the Senate?
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, I don't set any artificial timeline.
Maybe. I don't know. The point is, Maria, don't be stupid. Well, it's too late. But the point is not to actually have an impeachment. The point is just dirt for dirt's sake.
I think it's driven by the facts, driven by the evidence, driven by our constitutional duty to do oversight. We are now in an impeachment inquiry phase, and we got to focus on just doing our work and see where that leads.
Jesus Christ. The impeachment inquiry into the president of the United States for stuff that the vast majority of which either provably didn't do during his time as a vice president, and stuff that he may or may not have done. I would say not, but even if he did, it doesn't matter, during, private business while he was a private citizen, and his relatives did. But you're going about that by subpoenaing the financial records of his son and his brother, who you also have no evidence of criminality in their foreign payments. Oy.
But I think the evidence right now is pretty darn compelling, particularly when you just focus.
Well, that's because you're stupid.
Focus in on that Burisma example.
Also, making choking hands while you're discussing stuff like this isn't a good sign. Just saying. If anybody's trying to make a case to you and they put their thumbs together like this, where they're going to fucking choke the shit out of you because you're not listening to them, Maria, I would be glad you're doing this remote.
That I just gave. I mean, never forget these 4 fundamental facts.
Okay, here they are. Fundamental facts.
Biden was put on the board of Burisma. Fact number 1. Fact number
2. Yes, he was on the board of Burisma. Someone had to hire him because he didn't hire himself to be on the board of Burisma. That's a fact.
2, he wasn't qualified to be on the board. Fact number 3, the Burisma.
No. His qualifications to be on the board are immaterial. He was part of the investment group that was overseeing the money that was going into Burisma. Burisma is, in fact, a holding company. You don't have to know shit about oil and gas any more than you have to know anything about contracting to be, the investor in a series of real estate projects.
Some executives, as I just talked about, ask him for specific help. Fact number 4.
Yeah, they asked him for specific help. That doesn't mean they got it. People, if evidence is someone asking you to do something wrong, everyone in the world is fucked.
Joe Biden did exactly what was asked for.
No, Joe Biden was already planning to do what they asked for, apparently. The White House and the EU and the International Monetary Fund also wanted that. That's the 4. Those are the 4 facts. Fucking hell. Okay, first of all, 3 irrelevant pieces of information. 2 irrelevant pieces of information. A value assessment by this dickhead who I don't know if he believes that qualifications for being a congressman are that you can look the other way during multiple sexual assaults. And then the 4th one being a giant leap of assumption.
That, to me, is a real problem.
Thinking is a real problem for you, knucklehead.
That is, I think, irrefutable evidence right there that...
It's not. It's not irrefutable evidence. It's not even fucking evidence. It's blather. It's fucking blather. It's blather, you dum-dum. It's blather. God damn.
Something wrong was going on. In fact, Professor Turley said that this was a confirmed corrupt scheme of influence peddling.
So what? Turley is wrong. But Turley, in saying that, said it looks like it, but he doesn't have any evidence of it. He doesn't think it moves to the level of impeachable offenses right now. And also, if Turley's talking about that, like, quote unquote, level of corruption and the idea that they were influence peddling while Joe Biden was while he was no longer vice president and Donald Trump and Mike Pence were in the fucking White House, what power could Joe Biden have possibly had during those years?
And that, to me, is pretty darn serious. So we're going to...
That's because you're dumb. That's because you're not a smart man. You're in over your head, dum-dum.
Going to continue to dig and focus, I think, on that issue. And then the other things relative to other foreign nationals who are paying the Biden's money.
The Biden's money. And of course, Devin Archer is apparently a Biden now, as is Rob Walker and everybody else who ever did business. And then let's not forget Shemp Biden and Zeppo Biden and Brantley Biden. Can I just point out to everyone? I know I'm getting late in the show, but can I just point out that I was promised, and so were you, damning evidence to be laid out in this. Jim Jordan, this is the quote, lays out damning evidence against Biden for potential bribery charges. There's got to be some sort of fraud, libel, or slander in there, Fox News. Maria Bartiromo, aren't you in enough trouble with fucking Dominion? Because none of this. Martin Luther Biden, Curly Biden, yes. Harpo Biden, Ferris Biden, Bueller, Jesus Biden. But look, I'm enjoying this, and I have to say, from a strictly self-involved point of view, this has been good for business. This whole thing's been good for business, I gotta say, because these idiots are constantly giving me fodder to work with, and my only issue is, and I'm sorry if I don't, I just feel like I'm kind of intellectually slumming when we talk about this. And we have to, because they keep bringing it up. But this isn't even difficult to refute. El Guapo Biden. For some of us, reading is our El Guapo. Yeah. Whopper Biden, Pinky Biden, Hal Biden. There might be a Hal Biden. It's not, there probably is a Henry Biden someplace, back when they had an O on the front of the name. Prince Rogers Biden, the dude Biden. That's funny. That's very funny. There you are. And we'll end on this, because I don't want to press my luck with the show anymore today, because fuckity duck. But I'll have my afternoon show on tomorrow, and we'll have plenty to talk about then, I have no doubt. And I'm excited about Trump's continued flip outs. I hope he posts some like videos on Truth Social where he's wigging out back in his little room, where he's like, "What you're seeing here is a travesty of flavity flav," and we'll do that. But let's be abundantly clear. The two things they're going after Biden for are one instance, which again is provably false, because they already had decided in the White House to kick Shokin to the curb in exchange for the $1 billion in loan guarantees. The third installment of those, by the way. And then other things that happened during a time when Joe Biden was not even a public official anymore, and had no signs that he was going to again, and had no influence on the current administration at all. So his value in terms of influence peddling is just fucking silly. But this idea that somehow Joe Biden was like your magic ticket to the control of the U.S. government, to puppet your way into the U.S. government, they would have laughed off while he was vice president. They would have ignored that entirely and gone, no, who the fuck's going to ask Biden to control things and do stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's dumb. Biden was against the surge, and Obama didn't take him up on it. Biden, was the biggest force pushing the public option, but they had to do it in stages. If it was automatic that you could just pay him and get your way, there'd be all kinds of shit going on that were counter to American interests. And what they want to do is lay the fact that the wall that Trump built doesn't work for shit. It never helped. It didn't do anything. And Title 42 made the number of people going up, across the border go up exponentially. And they wanted to keep it that way so that through the next election cycle, there'd just be tons of people crossing and crossing and crossing. Whether they got in or not, the amount of crossings could create the illusion there were a lot more people entering the country than there were. And that's it. And so when that didn't work, Abbott and other Republican governors decided to send people like, a couple hundred at a time to big cities to make a big PR stink out of it in a country of 340 million people. That's it. While they're getting funds from the federal government to deal with those people and house them before they go back, or while they have asylum claims, or during the period they wait for, an NGO or a family or a church group or something to sponsor them. So none of this is going to amount to fucking anything. So I want you to continue to look at the committee that they put together, and Jim Jordan and James Comer and all them, with a lighthearted bemusement. While it is disgusting and lame, and it is gross, and there's a particular moment where they keep bringing up the where Hunter was CC'd on an email that had the weekend schedule for Joe on it, but it also had a call to Petro Poroshenko. And the reason Hunter was CC'd on that, along with others, was because they were coordinating for Bo's memorial the following Monday, which was the 1-year anniversary of his fucking death. And the fact that these assholes just pretend they don't know that. That's one of the things. That's one of those things that gets me. But the rest of it, I whenever this stuff comes up, honestly, I want you to smile wryly to yourself because it ain't going anywhere. And they're going to get increasingly mad. And my only worry is that eventually they're going to gin up some lone wolf knucklehead to try and take a poke at somebody because they're so stupid. And they got nothing. You know what I got, though? I got you, babe. I got you guys. Thanks for hanging in there when my show dumped off the air for a little bit. I love you. I appreciate you. I thank you. I thank you guys for your support. The likes, the thumbs up, the Venmos, the super chats, all that stuff means a lot. And thanks to everybody who is on Facebook for just being on Facebook. Ouch. And I'll see you tomorrow.